about. No, but so yeah, I have been hearing a lot of that same criticism over the. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Ben. It looks like he didn't have the option enabled, but you can definitely put your view, put your opinion down here, and I'll do my best to try to relay it, try to read it out there. But no, I agree with you. I think, and we talked about this before. Star Wars gets so much like unnecessary hate. You know what I mean? When it's just like instead of just being grateful that there's new content coming out, in particular with the sequel trilogies, obviously, and I'm not gonna lie, I have my own sort of gripes with how they handled it from a creative standpoint, for sure. But I totally agree with you that at least this content's coming out, and it's interesting because this new content, all this new content coming out, which has been killing it. And I'm talking about everything from like the Dave Filoni camp, as far as like the Mandalorian. It's all pre the sequel, so it's almost like they're trying not to touch that stuff, themselves. In a way, it kind of seems like they're kind of staying away from it.
Oh, so Benjamin Barkey, I don't know if you know him. He's a Lego content creator. He says he's a fan of The Expanse.
Oh man, I would love to talk to you about that. Ben, I knew that you would like that show because I knew you're like a hardcore sci-fi guy. You love shit on. Yo, Ben, it's so underrated. Is it not super underrated? I wouldn't say super underrated because the ratings are good. It's just so underappreciated, especially from the sci-fi community, man. There's so many people who do not watch that show, man, and it's so disappointing because it's such a good show, you know? Hey, Ben, that sucks, bro. I would have loved to have you on, man. That really sucks.
Wait, so that was the Ben you were talking about?
Yeah, Ben Barkey, yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, no, it would have been cool to have him on, man. It would have been awesome to have him on. He's big into sci-fi actually and stuff like that. So he has like all the ships and shit. Hey, I appreciate the follow, man. Lego Boy Vlogs. I'll give you one back. I see you got 21 followers. I'll help you out, brother. Let me turn this fan on.
Boba was never a character that was developed, so people built their own expectation. Yep. Yeah,
and that's true. Yes. So it's interesting. Let me see if I can get Brick Queen back on here because I know she had a very similar thought on that as well. Because because my whole thing was like when I asked her about the Boba Fett, because she asked me if I was watching it, which I haven't seen yet, she brought up that same criticism that people are sort of giving it all the time. They're like, oh, this isn't a Boba Fett that I grew up with. So evidently people are voicing that. Gus, you're a big Star Wars guy. Are you hearing that criticism a lot also about Boba Fett not being the Boba Fett that people grew up on? And to Key's point, what Boba Fett are you talking about? The one from the Christmas special? Like, is that
the one that showed up for 8 minutes in the 2 films he was in that said maybe 3 lines?
Yeah, he was like, no, what was it? No disintegration or something like
that. As you wish. That was his line.
As you wish.
And then he was like, he's no good to me dead.
Yeah, Brick Queen. The reason why I invited you back on is because Key gave the same an example of the same complaint that you said you were hearing about Boba Fett, or at least Rex said that like, oh, this is not the Boba Fett we grew up on. But it's like, what the fuck? You didn't grow up on Boba Fett. Like he had like 3 lines, But people, which is kind of interesting because it's like, bro, for years everyone wanted Boba Fett material, right? For years, it was like known that like he's the coolest character that no one that doesn't have any screen time. You know what I mean?
And then when they gave Maul his treatment, I thought that would have made people even more excited for characters like Boba Fett to get more screen time.
Yeah, but they gave Maul his treatment.
Maul was great.
Well, no, I've only heard that people aren't liking the show. I haven't heard the criticism. Okay. Can anybody find me somebody to love? Some Queen reference. Can anybody find me? This is my first account. Hey, nice, Lego boy. That Lego boy. I give you a follow, man. I always try to support people within the Lego niche all the time, bro. So I give you a follow. Yeah, so I love what they did with Darth Maul, but it was mostly done through the animated series, right? Through Clone Wars, and but yeah, it was so good to get him back. And I feel like, so here's what I kind of feel like. We've been so thirsty for Boba Fett material since like the 70s, right? Or like the 80s, right?
Yeah, the 80s.
Yeah, so the Mandalorian did a good job in kind of wetting our whistle and kind of feeding that appetite a little bit because we finally got Boba Fett back, but it wasn't enough of Boba Fett to really warrant that much criticism from it. Outside of like the dad bod, I think the fight scenes
Yeah,
were
they were like
awesome and
Boba
all that.
Fett, not my Boba Fett.
So I kind of feel like, it's kind of ironic. Like even me, I wasn't as excited about the Boba Fett show as I would have been if he wasn't in the Mandalorian. Oh, I finally won a match.
That's
Okay, Brick Queen,
true.
everybody's stepping up. Okay, you get what I'm saying. I feel like the
Yeah,
Mandalorian has so many cool characters in Mando himself, in Baby Yoda, in a live action Ahsoka Tano, that it just has everyone anticipating her show. It has everyone anticipating Obi-Wan. That Boba Fett show kind of fell to the wayside a little bit. You know what I mean? Do you get that feel at all?
yeah, yeah, a little bit. And it's like I know a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, Tamura Morrison's just so goofy. Like he's so goofy looking," and I'm like, "This is like probably the best option to play the character because that's literally the person that's the template for Boba Fett. So
Yeah.
when he ages at a normal rate, he would look exactly like his father. So
Yeah, no, and it's like I
like, yeah, he's so
appreciate the
goofy, and
fact
like
that
he was in a Sarlacc pit and got like just absolutely wrecked by acid, and he's not going to be a looker,
no, but I
you know?
appreciate the fact that they kept the same actor from like the fucking prequels because I would have
Yeah,
hated I would have hated if they had a whole different actor, you know what I mean, in the prequels. I
yeah,
mean, than who they had in the prequels. I like the continuity of the characters and stuff. So,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
I have to ask you one thing. What is that like a banta? Was that in the episode or was that like a blooper?
Yeah, it's in the episode. In the second episode,
That is a
uh,
little that is a
yeah.
little
I mean,
cringy.
it's not. It looks really silly out of context, but it's just making the whole thing is that no one sees Boba Fett as human, and it makes him and the way he'll be goofy at times, and he'll be very like a serious killer, and then also be like a fair human. Is just showing that he's a complex human with complex emotions, kind of like how when we were introduced to the Mandalorian, you saw this like faceless, cold-blooded killer,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
then as Grogu's introduced, we see him soften up a bit. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that same sort of thing.
No, Chris has a hot take here. Who Chris, by the way, is a close friend of mine growing up, and like I grew up with him pretty much. And he has like the two most badass or three most badass Star Wars tattoos on his forearm. He has like an Ahsoka Tano colored beautifully. He has is it both? No, yeah, Sabine Wren, and he has a Baby Yoda, but it's done in like an anime type look. It looks awesome. But he
Oh,
says
that's
that the
cool.
Mandalorian was a bit boring the first few episodes, and I beg to differ, bro. I beg to differ. Now, I'm a little different when it comes to movies. I know a lot of people like to see action and stuff like that. What I appreciate the most in movies is good dialogue and good acting.
Breaking
I
Bad.
really do. Yeah, I really do.
Breaking Bad's a great example.
Yeah, yeah, I really. Did you say Breaking Bad was overrated or no?
No, I said Breaking
Oh,
Bad's a great example of a lot of
yeah,
dialogue that leads up to limited action, but it makes it that much more impactful because
exactly,
there's
exactly. So for
more. It's
yeah,
more thought out.
So for me, like if you can have a clever banter back and forth and it makes us like Clone Wars. I love Clone Wars because of the political banter, bro. That was just it's so weird that that's the animated show, but before The Mandalorian, that was some of the most like mature dialogue that we had in any of Star Wars. You know what I mean? It was
Honestly, true.
came from like a from like a cartoon show, right? So when I first
Yeah.
saw The Mandalorian, I was over the summer. I mean, was over the pandemic, and I binge watched all of the Star Wars, and I never saw The Mandalorian, but I saw it after the prequels. And the contrast from getting through the prequels and that dialogue to then watching The Mandalorian, I literally thought from the first few episodes, I was like, bro, this can be a Western. Like, if you stripped all of the Star Wars aesthetics,
Oh yeah.
this would still be a really good Western show. You know what I mean? Like, it would just be a good bounty show outside of like the Star Wars aesthetics, outside of the Star Wars universe. So I
And
really
because that
enjoyed The
Dave
Mandalorian.
Filoni and John Favreau are very talented creators and writers, and they are responsible for some of the greatest pieces of nerd culture
Yeah.
since like the early 2000s. Like
Yeah. If you
we
look
got
at
the
The Last
MCU, we
Airbender,
got
is
Last
highly
Airbender.
is
Like
highly
those are
touted from.
fantastic.
Yeah, you got Iron Man 1, which was like a huge one. I'm going to ignore the other two Iron Man movies, but Iron Man 1 was like the bomb.
By and large, the MCU is mostly good, quality wise. There are of course some things, but just like Star Wars, it's everyone's got to be a critic.
Yeah.
Not everything's going to please everyone, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, and Brickley says
That's the
I have
human
the
thing to do.
micro machine bantha. You have a bantha like a bantha, Brickley. I think I have a bantha. Is that what came with the little Mandalorian set? Let me see.
No, there. I don't think a bantha's ever been done in Lego. The bantha is a very furry, horned creature that's like a really large
It's a
horse.
creature. I see. I thought it was like a machine.
Yes. So,
Oh,
my prediction: there's supposed to be a 400-piece Book of Boba Fett set coming out this year. I think it's going to be a buildable like brick bantha with Boba Fett in his Raider robes.
oh, that would be sick. That would be sick. So yeah, I gotta catch up on the Book of Boba Fett. Did you finish a Bad Batch or no?
I did, yeah. I finished it right before I left for the summer. Actually, I really enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
know, okay. I guess that's kind of loaded. I would say, like the first episode was so good that the majority of the side quest filler episodes kind of felt lackluster because of how good the first episode was. And then it started to really heat up towards the end when they were revealing like the early Empire plans and then them going to Camino
Yeah.
and all of that. That really heated up, but there's a good while in the middle where it just kind of it was like cool Star Wars world building, but it didn't really do much for the story of the
Yeah, and
Bad Batch.
and if I have any gripe with a lot of these Star Wars shows, by the way, let me read these comments real quick. I'm not saying Mandalorian was bad the first few episodes. Don't, Chris, don't retract your statements, bro. I can go back and read it. Don't you own up to it, bro?
The backpedaling.
Episodes were just a bit slower and boring. Yeah, I got you. But again, I did think that I don't mind slow and boring. I really don't. I do mind boring, but again, I thought that the dialogue was really well written, man. So I enjoyed the first few episodes. Like when he was meeting with Apollo Creed, I forgot what his character's name is. Apollo Creed, and he
Yeah.
was kind of figuring out the bounty. I liked all that stuff. And the client, you remember the client, that one actor? I thought he killed it, man. At first,
Yeah.
we need a Lego Bantha. We do, Brick Queen. But you said you have a micro one. Did you make one yourself? Did you make a custom one? I found a set 7101 and I have a vid of it. Which is 7101? I cannot remember the set numbers based off of the.
Yeah, I have no clue.
I
I
tried
couldn't tell
to.
you a single set number for anything
Yeah, I
ever.
like how you
I
say
just don't think about that.
Mandalorian is like Western. Book of Boba Fett is kind of like a gangster style. Is it? Book of Boba Fett is kind of more of like
Oh yeah,
like
it
a
absolutely
Martin
is.
Scorsese type feel.
It's got like there's some I swear there's like influence from The Godfather. Like there's a scene where there's a bunch of guys together at a
Uh-huh.
table. I won't really talk about it, but it's very much
I don't
from
mind
The
spoilers,
Godfather.
bro. It's okay. I mean, go ahead.
And then there's also I honestly got some Breaking Bad vibes in some
Yeah,
spots. So there's like
that's
a
cool.
lot of influence being drawn from these other franchises, and it's working for the film or the show.
Yeah, that's cool. And I do really like Robert Rodriguez. I didn't know that show was made by him. I didn't know he was like the showrunner of that. So you know who he is, right? He
Yeah,
yeah, he's done like a lot of work with Quentin Tarantino. He's also done Spy Kids, but I don't want to like put that up front. Yeah,
yeah.
but it
Well,
was really
I will say
successful.
episode 3, you can definitely tell that there's a little bit of Spy Kids esque things in there.
Yeah, yeah.
I
But
won't, I
one of
won't be
the
a
best.
toxic fan, but there's some tone there that was very Spy Kids. When you watch it, you'll know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, no, no. Yeah, like a little campy, I guess you can say. Like it's
It
some
was a
campy
little
stuff.
campy,
Yeah, yeah. He's
but
definitely a
by and
campy
large,
guy.
the show so far is pretty all right.
And he
So
does. He's known. Robert Rodriguez is known for a lot of grindhouse, that genre of a movie, and it like
yeah,
it's super campy. Grindhouse is that, you know what I mean, by nature that's kind of campy. So that's what he does.
yeah,
But the best action scene that I've ever seen of Boba Fett, mind you, I have not seen the Boba Fett show yet, but came on that Mandalorian. episode with him and
That's still the best one.
yeah,
That one's still the best one. It is.
him
I'm
and
sorry to
Fennec
disappoint
Chan.
you, but that's too
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
It
yeah, and
can't
he
be. It can't
directed
be
that
one
fight
up.
scene, so I thought that was so cool. The one with like him and Fennec Chan or whatever her name is. I know I agree
Yeah.
with the perfect fourth. It's hard to disagree with the perfect fourth, man. He's the man. It took me forever to get into Breaking Bad because the first episode bored me. The dialogue that is great and the acting, just nothing pulled me. No, and I get that, bro. And I feel like a lot of people do need.
The first episode was so good. What are you talking
No,
about?
no, but look, I honestly I understand what he's saying though because
Yeah,
I'm not saying that he doesn't like. A lot of people need shit to happen in order to get
that's
invested
true.
in the show. You know,
I'm
I'm
wired
not like that
differently.
per se. I put more emphasis on the dialogue and the acting more so than anything because to me it's just like, is this realistic? You know, like I don't know why, and it's like we all kind of like go into movies and shows with our own kind of like with our own way of viewing it, I guess, and what we like and what we don't
Yeah,
like, and that makes sense. Like it is boring. I can understand why people would say it's boring, but for me, I'm all down for good dialogue, bro. Like
the
I'll watch
slow
a movie with
burn.
no action at all, just because it's like, bro, that's clever and that's witty, and I fucking love it. Like that's why I love Game of Thrones. And Gus, you probably agree with me on this. Game of Thrones found a great balance between like just a bunch of witty dialogue, but yet some really good, well done action sequences. I loved it.
The more I think about like my favorite shows, they're all slow burns. Like I loved Daredevil and Breaking Bad. Um,
Right, right,
and
right.
then if you watch Gotham, Gotham's a great one
Really,
for that sort
Gotham.
of thing.
But let
Gotham's
me say this.
I actually quite enjoyed Gotham.
Okay, but let me say this before I get to the Gotham thing, is that I agree with you 100%, man, on Daredevil, and which is why you have me a little intrigued with Gotham because it seems like we're on the same page. Where it's just like the action sequences are just little bonuses, cherry on tops. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, this is
Yeah,
a good show. Plus, we get some good action. It's not like we're only looking for
I
the,
mean,
you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So,
Gotham is very much more of a crime mafia plus detective. It's
so
actually very little superhero at all.
here's my gripe with CW shows, bro. I don't watch any of
Yeah,
the Arrowverse, any of the CW shows, and
I wouldn't compare it to those. I have watched Arrow and I didn't
the
finish it.
and the Flash.
But it's a very different tone. It's a different group of people that are working on the show. So I wouldn't necessarily group it with those. Even technically, it was on there for a very short time, but it got moved over to like Fox or something like that.
Oh, did it? Did it? Because
Yeah,
all okay, so that's good to know because
the production value is actually quite high. Like it's pretty
I
good.
immediately dismiss the shows based on like the fact that they're on CW, and I know that's kind of like slapping a wrist. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but they all feel like Gilmore Girls plus superheroes. Like they all have like that
Oh yeah,
Dawson's
no,
Creek
it's
vibe.
dark and grimy. Like I mean, it honestly, I could definitely compare it to the tone of Daredevil. It's dark.
Is it really?
It's
E- e-
quite yeah, it's good.
and I don't want to sound like I don't want to sound too crazy here, but I also don't like that it's like censored for daytime or like for network television because I like not that I only watch shows with cursing, but I like them to get a little more real with their dialogue. You know what I mean? Like, come on, if you're in a
Yeah,
situation like this, so that kind of like turns me off a little bit too. But if you're saying that it's good, I might give it a shot.
it's
I
gritty.
love
It's definitely gritty. Like it's so. I mean, did you ever play like like
Arkham.
the Arkham games?
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like in that universe, like that
Oh,
kind
really?
of darker, grittier
All right,
version
before I
of
get to my next
Gotham.
point, let me read this comment. 7101 is a set that comes with Darth Maul and Qui Gon Jinn, the dual pack. Oh, that's an old school set, huh? I agree with Game of
Like the
Thrones.
1999 one.
Yeah, I think so. Is it the yellow Qui Gon? Since I agree with Game of Thrones, I love the show. There are episodes with no action, but the dialogue and acting kept me involved. Exactly, bro. The dialogue was so witty, especially with that little. I forgot. I hate the little person. What's his? I forgot what his name is on the show. Peter
Uh,
Dinklage, but I don't know. I forgot what his
yes.
character's name is. But he some of his dialogue was so superb, bro. I loved how witty that character was. But that's what I'm saying. It's just a really well written show, man. And sometimes that's all I need to be involved in the show. As long as it's written well, I'm okay with that. I couldn't get into Gotham. I tried a few times. Yeah, and you know what else? Yeah, it is the one with the yellow Qui Gon. Good. And you know what
The
else?
best character on Gotham is
The Joker.
Joker. Well, oh, that's right. He does show like
It's
kind of
not
show up
really the
towards the end a
Joker
little bit.
technically, right?
Yeah, it's so I don't know. It's different. The best character by far. Well, okay, actually, yeah, no, the best character by far is Oswald Cobblepot, Penguin,
Oh,
and
really?
it shows him. So he starts off as like just they treat him like trash, and he's like he's working for the mafia, but he's like treated like garbage, and he's like the awkward deformed butler type character, and
Or
he basically just goes off the deep end and takes over the entire crime ring from the inside, and that's
oh,
like
that
the
is
first couple of
cool.
seasons. It's really
So
good,
you see
and
him
like
start at the
and
bottom, get to the top type thing.
and the person that's running the syndicate before him is played by Jada Pinkett Smith, and she is like cracked out, like
Jada Pinkett Smith
insane.
was in that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, I did not
I
know
didn't
that.
even realize who it was because she doesn't act like her. And this was before all that stuff happened between her and Will. But
All that red room talk, and she just like makes her husband look like a punk all the time. Let me stop.
yeah, her characters, the characters are great. And I mean, there's like a young Bruce Wayne, but he's very much like hardly in there. It is more centered around the
Gordon, right?
detective Gordon before
Gordon,
he
right?
becomes the commissioner. So he's starting out. He's got like a partner, and they're doing like crime work together, and then they start like they like slowly introduce some of the villains, but it's a lot more real. It's not
Right.
like the
No,
superhero-y campy thing.
you're actually
So
kind of selling me on this. Gus says the guy who plays the penguin is great. And speaking of the like that whole Arkham feel, I just saw the trailer, the newest trailer to that new Matt Reeves Batman, right? And
the one
that
that's
is
coming out this year.
yeah, that's giving me some serious Arkham vibes, bro. Like that really looks like the Arkham series game. You know, it looks like
I'm
it's like
surprised that it's not rated R. I was really thinking they were going to go that route with this one.
it's not rated R.
It's not. It's PG-13, and they just did that. They released that a few days ago, and a lot of people were being gross, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm not going to go see it now. I thought we are going to get like a gritty Batman." I'm like, Batman's always like the Dark Knight trilogy wasn't rated R, and that sure as hell was gritty at times.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. And it was one of the. I mean, yeah, it's undoubtedly not just one of the best Batman movies. It's like one of the best. Dark Knight is going to be known as one of the best movies of all time forever. You know what I mean? It's highly.
yeah,
Yeah. So that's ridiculous. And if you think about our rating, that just means that there probably isn't a lot of sex and there probably isn't a lot of cursing. That's it. Doesn't mean that they're.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can get through
I
with
mean, there's some
violence and
very
still be.
violent PG-13 movies out there and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. It's probably
It's
the
gritty.
cursing in it, which I don't mind too much in the it's probably just a few curse words, you know what I mean? And then there's no sex, which I don't mind because I can watch it with my daughter. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
I'm,
exactly.
yeah, I'm always looking for shit without sex. Every time I'm like, can I watch this with my daughter? I don't care about the violence and stuff as much because I used to watch violent shit all the time as a kid. You know, whatever. Like,
Exactly.
I don't think it's that bad. But when it comes to sex, as a parent, I'm a little more concerned about that than I am with like cursing and stuff. You know, but
Yeah, for sure.
no, man, I'm excited. This last trailer, I'm just kind of like, what the fuck is DC doing? You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yeah,
so weird, and maybe it's kind of like bad on us because I think it kind of feels like Marvel set a tone with having this constant continuity inside of a universe,
yeah.
right? That it's almost like not everything has to be not everything has to be within a universe. You know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
never
It
like
just, I
that.
guess, for people, it makes it easier to follow, and I do appreciate that.
Me too. I
But then it kind of
appreciate it.
boxes you in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It kind of boxes you in where it's like, okay, doesn't mean that you can't now it's not that every movie. So I think DC gets a lot of slack for not having continuity in their universe in the same way that Marvel does. But at the same time, if you look at the Joker movie, I absolutely love that movie as a standalone. I'm okay with that. I'm
Yeah,
cool with that,
it's a
you know?
great movie, just in
And
general.
if you look,
If you look at
so
superheroes.
yeah, I think it just gets compared to Marvel a lot with that. But at the same token, it seems like Warner Brothers really doesn't have a grasp of what direction they want to steer this whole ship. You know what I mean? It seems like a little
Yeah.
all over the place a little bit. Like one of the examples I
Constantly changing directors doesn't help either.
yeah, and one of the examples I bring up all the time is like, okay, you have Zack Snyder doesn't exist, like that whole that he still exists, but the universe doesn't exist anymore. But you're still making movies based off his characters, and it's just
That
so
Flash
weird.
movie, I think the Flash movie through Flashpoint is going to erase that timeline, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I don't want to say it's unfortunate, but I think at least because I think we might have talked about this before. I think during in a comment section of one video,
Probably.
it's kind of like uh, like these multiverse things. Like it seems like production companies are using that as like a proverbial like eraser or something like that. Like it's just like okay, well
You're like,
now we
oh,
can
that
just
was
act
bad. We
like
should
none of this
probably
happened.
delete that.
Yeah, there was even a lot of talk about Star Wars kind of introducing the alternate, like these multiverse type things, just so they can kind of like redact the sequel trilogy and
Yeah,
show
the
like
world
that.
between worlds. Everyone
Yeah,
wants
yeah,
them to go to the world between worlds in the second show and undo the sequel trilogy.
yeah, yeah. And you've seen it in the Clone Wars. It does exist. I mean, there's certainly room in the
Yeah,
canon for that avenue. You know what I mean? To take place.
exactly.
But and I wouldn't mind it too much, but I don't really care too much about the sequels, especially now that they're like most of the new content is all pre-sequel anyway, so it's not like we're having
Yeah.
to deal with that too
It just
much.
takes away the stakes of things. Kind of like, I mean, the reason why I mainly didn't care for The Rise of Skywalker, forget about the dialogue and that Palpatine. Well, I guess it was about Palpatine returning because my thing was that the whole Skywalker saga was about Vader or Anakin becoming Vader, ultimately sacrificing himself and bringing balance to the Force. Well, when Palpatine comes back, that completely undoes his entire thing. That took
Yeah,
over the course of the whole franchise. That was
yeah,
just like my main issue was it kind of just it diminished the character of Anakin.
yeah. And I mean, if you're gonna be honest about it, if you want to look at it objective, like step away from the lore of Star Wars and look at it objectively, it clearly was a franchise that was mishandled towards like it was just
Yeah,
from like a production standpoint, it was just poorly managed as far as like one of the biggest gripes that I have with it is that, man, listen, if you're going to do a trilogy, right, a trilogy of films, particularly in a beloved franchise, but in general, if you're going to do a trilogy of films, it's always better to have one vision. Obviously, like it goes without saying,
yeah,
it's always better to have one vision. If you look at the Lord of the Rings, the way Peter Jackson did it, like he kind of knew what he knew from the beginning. It was his project. If you look at the original
oh yeah,
trilogies from the Star Wars, even if you look at the prequel trilogy, for better or for worse, it was all one vision. It was George Lucas getting his thing done. You know what I mean? So the
yeah.
idea that they will sort of, for lack of a better term, pour it out to three different directors just kind of seems like, why would you do that? Just have one, especially when the guy who did the Return of the Jedi, no, not let's see, the Last Jedi, right?
Yeah, Rian
He
Johnson.
uh he was very like keen on not listening to anybody. Like he pretty much they said he locked himself in a room and just kind of just like wrote his own script. It was like screw what everyone thinks kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which is just like kind of it was kind of silly. Which I didn't hate that movie by the way. It's probably one of my favorite of the new. I know it's the most divisive film, but it's actually one of my favorite of the sequel trilogy.
I think
But
if the rest of the trilogy had been built around that, it probably would have been the most cohesive trilogy out of the three.
if what? I'm
Maybe
sorry.
if they had based the entire trilogy off of that movie, I think it would have had a better chance, perhaps,
Yeah, yeah,
like the whole
yeah,
trilogy
exactly.
itself.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. I agree with that. I agree with that. It would, yeah, it would have made more sense. Instead, it just felt like it came out of left field for a lot of things. For a lot of people.
Yeah,
Every time DC has to redo a movie, they put it into a different multiverse. Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. They made the CW shows canon by putting the Flash from Justice League in the Flash show. Oh, they introduced the Flash from Justice League in the Flash show. And to be fair,
yeah,
like there's a big multiverse. Like that's actually from the comic book, with like the
yeah.
all the
The Flashpoint.
multiverses, yeah, Flashpoint and stuff like that. So they kind of have a lead, but that's interesting. That's interesting. I didn't watch the Flash show, so I didn't know about that. But I guess that's pretty interesting. They're kind of
It's a
trying to,
little bit more campy. The first couple of seasons were great, and then it kind of just were eh. But I watched
yeah,
some of it. Grant Gustin's actually quite good as the character of the Flash.
Yeah, is he better than
but the writing was just a little bit campy.
is he better than the one from Justice League? Would you say?
You know what? Well, I think the character of the Flash should be kind of goofy. So I like as it's Ezra Miller, right?
Yeah,
That's who did that one. I think they're both good. I would actually say I prefer Ezra Miller
really?
out of the two. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think because he's like really smart but goofy. Like that's kind of what the Flash is.
yeah. No, I
So
liked him as the Flash. I know he got a lot of flack. So and so, what were your thoughts on the Snyderverse, the Snyder cut?
um I've never been incredibly fond of Zack Snyder as a director just because it feels like all of his movies are kind of done the same way. Like he really is in
That's
love
fair.
with slow mo and all like just kind of like some very oddly specific directing choices. But as far as like the continuity of his story, even though it was a longer movie, I did like that. Like I kind of wish we got more with like Apocalypse and all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I agree
No,
with that as
like
well
I
too.
liked that, but like the pacing was kind of weird. It's like maybe don't do so many slow mo scenes, or there's like some things that definitely should have been left out.
Yeah,
But then there were some like main parts of the story that, and like there's the one scene where the Flash is like breaking like what was it like the light barrier or whatever. Like that whole
yeah,
thing that was completely out of the last movie. That
yeah,
was cool. That should
yeah,
have
yeah.
stayed in.
No, I agree with that. And you're right. He definitely has his own like style of directing that is very evident whenever you watch like his films and stuff. But one thing that I do appreciate about Zack Snyder is that you can tell he's a comic book guy. You know, like he's a comic book
True.
fan. And sometimes you see like some shots, like there's a lot of Easter eggs as far as like he literally takes shots from panels in the comic book. And
Yeah.
so it is kind of refreshing to see someone who appreciates the actual work, like actually appreciates the source material. You know what I mean? And trying to like that. So
Yeah.
so I do like that. I thought he killed it was Watchmen. I thought that movie was great. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. I love that. But then but I did like the Snyderverse, man. I think it kind of, I mean, the Snyder cut. It kind of, the unfortunate thing about that was, I love that they did it, that they actually released it, that like, the internet kind of got its way. You know what I mean? And kind of did that.
That is cool. Like that whole concept of like, people being able to basically
But
demand the movie be released
yeah,
that has been already completed, of course.
but I agree that it kind of left like a taste in my mouth to get more of that verse, even that universe,
Yeah.
even though it was already over. So that kind of
It just
sucks. That
felt
like,
more it felt complete. And just about the director getting his vision like seen out, especially because of the whole like reason why he left in the first place. Like that was kind of screwed up, I thought. From
because of
like
like his
a
daughter's situation.
yeah, because like from a moral standpoint, that's kind of screwed up.
No,
So
but
I'm
I
glad
think
that he
I
was
think
able
he
to
had to
get
go. I
that.
mean, I don't know. What do you mean? What do you think they did that was bad? I think he kind of like threw in the towel, right?
Well, I mean, they could have just waited, and post production, like they've done with a lot of other movies, that sort of a
Yeah,
thing.
I know. But the one thing that they value more, it seems like, than money is time, kind of. Well, I wouldn't say, or it's the number two thing,
Yeah,
because
it
like they
depends.
hate like delays and shit like that, these giant production companies. But yeah, you're right though. You're right though. I think it's gonna go, and especially when you hear that Josh Whedon was such a jerk, like he was such an a
True. I
hole.
mean, I
You
just
know,
don't like Josh. I don't like Josh Whedon. He's
no
a
one likes
scummy
him, bro.
dude.
I seen a girl who did a TikTok video about like all of like the sexist shit he did in the video and like in the movie and all
Yeah,
of like the questionable like creative decisions that he kind of went with. And it was just like, you know what? And you just hear he's a jerk, and he was like kind of like one of those guys that fell into like the whole Me Too movement type of thing.
yeah.
Just as far as like one of those elitist a hole like kind of film director type people. Snyder Cut
Oh
was
yeah.
better than the original. Still not a great movie though. Yeah, I mean, what's a great movie? Is it fucking Schindler's List? No. But I think as far
That is a very subjective. It's a very
yeah,
subjective thing. I
but yeah,
enjoyed it.
yeah. I mean, I
Should it have
really
won
enjoyed
awards?
it.
Probably not.
I enjoyed it. It was, to me, it was a notch below. Ugh, look, it was. Yeah, it's tough to say. I put it over Iron Man 1, but I'll put it under the Dark Knight, somewhere like right around there.
That's fair.
Yeah, yeah. Over and
I think it
Iron
was
Man
hard
one
to
is
say
really
that though,
good.
because it's just like, oh, I don't know, I'm gonna piss off all the Marvel boys
Yeah, yeah,
coming in the comments being like, how dare you
yeah.
poop all over Robert Downey Jr. and
Yeah.
John Favreau.
Yeah. And Iron Man one was great, and it's just I just love the idea of seeing a bunch of superheroes together, man. I think seeing Batman and Superman, the Flash, and all that stuff. I thought it was great. As far as comic book movies, it wasn't great. I'll put it over Iron Man 2 and 3, but not over Iron. Yeah, okay, well that's fair, but fuck, anything goes over Iron Man 2 and 3. I went back and I saw
Yeah,
all of so during the pandemic, I caught up on all the Star Wars movies. I just rewatched them all. And my plan was to go through all of the Marvel MCU films to try to see the whole
I
timeline.
actually did that too. I watched all the MCU
Yeah,
stuff
but
during the
you know what?
pandemic.
I wish I can say that I did, but some of the phase ones were tough. I mean, you can
Yeah,
you can really tell that they were still trying to figure out where they were going with everything. And it was like before they really got the ball rolling per se. They're just so
they did feel fairly formulated because they were all kind of the same as far as the structure goes. Because you introduce the hero, and then they have to have some huge dilemma moralistically or whatever, and
yeah,
then they
yeah,
fight a big bad at the end, and then suddenly they're all hunky dory.
yeah. Not just that, you can also tell that they were like, eh, I don't know, I don't know. I'll tell you what. Iron Man 1 I loved. Iron Man 2 and 3 took a surprising dip. I was so
Yeah,
shocked that it was not a good movie because it's like, how do you not make a good movie after? It's like I don't know. The first one seems so. It seemed almost like a shoe in that 2 and 3 were going to be bad. Thor, dude, I skipped the first Thor and the second Thor. Ragnarok, I think was fantastic. I love Ragnarok, but the first two Thors, I could not deal with them, bro. I couldn't, I couldn't get through them.
I can understand the Dark World, but I think the first one was good for the building of like
Yeah,
the
it
character as
was
far as how
cool
he's introduced into the
insofar as I
MCU and
love.
all that.
Yeah, it was cool insofar as I am a sucker for origin story, so it was cool in that
Just seeing how
sense.
far he comes from being the arrogant, vain, and cruel boy to
Yeah,
being the dude that like literally holds open a star and yeah,
yeah.
all that.
But part three, they really knocked it out of the park. They hit it out of the park with part three. I think that was awesome. They found the perfect director for Thor. They found a perfect like blend of comedy and being facetious and really getting the characters out. So
Yeah,
I thought that was great. Like it finally really found its footing with Thor and YTT, whatever that director's name is. I can't remember his name. I always say Waikiki something. I can't.
oh, what did he? Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He's cool
Yeah,
though.
yeah. And he really did his
Um,
thing on that one. Then it says everyone wanted to.
someone
Let me see.
who
Well, let me read my comments here. It says the Justice League movie had nothing to wrong for the heroes. Everything they wanted to do, they succeeded. Yeah, I see. I'm sure. Let's save the hostages. They say Gus you wrote like a whole you wrote a whole piece on this. You really dissected this movie. Let's bring back Superman. Hey, he's back and was only bad for 2 minutes. Lewis is here. Oh, all right, dang, okay. We have a critic here of Justice League. Let's
we
fight the
gotta
villain.
get
Okay, he's dead. He won. Yeah, I'm sure.
we
I'm sure.
gotta
You're probably
we
right.
gotta get Henry Cavill a good Superman movie, and we gotta get Andrew Garfield a good Spider-Man movie that's standalone, not being part of the MCU, being his own thing.
You think so? Go back to Garfield. I liked Garfield as Spider-Man. I really did.
I love him as Spider-Man. I did not like the movies because I think the writing was very subpar, but I love
Yeah,
Andrew Garfield. He's my favorite Spider-Man out of
yeah.
the three,
And that's
personally.
hardly uncontroversial as far as the writing. I mean, it's the third one got canceled, right? So, but
Yeah,
here's the thing. I think Peter Parker and Spider-Man kind of, when it comes to casting them, they kind of fall into like the same dilemma that I see a lot with Batman. And it's kind of like, you know, trying to cast someone who can play both alter egos well. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
so I really liked Peter Parker's, Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, okay? Insofar as that he was such a believable antisocial geek, you know? And when
yeah,
I look at Garfield, I loved him as Spider-Man. Not so much as Peter Parker. I felt like he seemed like the cool kid as Peter
Yeah,
Parker. Like,
he's too cool.
yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
know
you're
like
like
in some
attractive.
because
You're
there's
riding
so many
around on your
different.
skateboard. You're getting the
Yeah,
hot
I mean
girl.
that is a version of Spider-Man though. If
No,
you
no,
look at
no,
the
you're
comics
right. You're right.
with the multiverse and all that, there are many versions of Spider-Man, and there are definitely some really cool. Like, I mean, if you look at some of the Spider-Man stuff, like he's like a lady killer,
Yeah, no, no,
and
you're right. You're right.
he makes his rounds and all
Yeah,
that, you know.
especially when he gets
So
the
that would
power.
be that Spider-Man.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
You can't imagine Tobey Maguire being that way. He's too dorky.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. But I guess I sort of have the traditional Spider-Man, Peter Parker in my mind,
Yeah,
kind of. But what I do like about Andrew Garfield was his Spider-Man was so awesome. He looked so cool in the suit, and also like just like his
he's
physique,
funny.
it just fits so well in the suit. Not only
Yeah,
that, like his sarcasm was so great. Like his joking was so awesome in his suit. Like it just fits so well. He had such a cool swag about him when he was Spider-Man. Where Peter Parker, he sounded so stupid when he was making jokes as
yeah. It's
Spider-Man.
hard. Yeah,
You
it's
know?
hard to be animated when you literally have something over your face. And
Yeah.
while he was in the suit, he had a very like talking with his hands and doing all that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah. He
thing.
had like this
It
cool
worked really
swag
well for
about
him.
him.
But Tobey Maguire, not so
Yeah.
much.
And the way he delivered his jokes as Spider-Man, because we grew up like watching, or at least I grew up watching like the '90s cartoon, and it
Yeah,
was like he was like when he was Spider-Man, he was making jokes, he was humorous, he was like he had this swag when he put on the suit, and I think Garfield like emulated that perfectly, Where Peter Parker, I always remember this one scene on like they on the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, they tried to incorporate that humor when he was Spider-Man, but it did not flow right. Like, there was one scene where Spider-Man 2, which is a great movie, the Sam Raimi ones, when he's in a bank with Doc Ock, and he's like, "Hey,
yeah,
need some change." But it was delivered so corny, and then he just
yeah.
lacked that swag that Garfield, I think, nailed in his portrayal of Spider-Man. So, so I agree,
Leave it
but
to
I
the British people to be funny.
yeah, right, right. Is Sam Raimi British
No,
or
no. Andrew
Doc Ock?
Garfield and Tom Holland are
Oh yeah,
both
yeah,
not
that's true. Yeah, that's
American,
true. That's funny. Yeah,
and they sound more American. And like Andrew Garfield sounds more American than like American people when
yeah,
he
yeah. No,
plays
no,
that
he's a
character.
great actor. He has that. They have that Monty Python humor in them.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I feel like Batman kind of, a lot of people and that's such a dilemma too, because because one of the strong points or one of the things that really attract us to those characters are the contrasts in the alter egos. It's the fact that like these
yeah,
people are two different characters, completely, and so it is for all intents and purposes a hard thing to cast. Unless you go like the Power Ranger route where you have like a different actor in the suit,
yeah.
an
Exactly.
actor
It's like
outside the
you want them to feel human and relatable when
yeah.
they're not in the costume, and then they're like these like larger than life, like especially like in Marvel. Well, Marvel they're more like human that take on the role of the hero, whereas in DC it's like okay, these guys are just gods. Clearly, they're better than humanity,
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of a
yeah, yeah.
thing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Gus says Tom Holland does a great Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and I agree with that. I think
Yeah,
in my opinion, he's the better. Like he has a better balance of both of them. I think he's geeky.
yeah, I agree with that take.
I think he's geeky, and he's also still very like. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. He's like he's a good combination of both of them, and he's young. He seems young enough. And I actually like Tom Holland. I do. I think he's pretty cool. But yeah, you get that a lot with Batman as well too, because there's such a big contrast with Batman's alter egos, where on one you're an antisocial emo vigilante, and on the other hand, you're a very social billionaire, playboy billionaire who, if anything, you overemphasize one aspect of you to help cover up your Batman alter ego. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
he's overcompensating
Yeah,
for
he's
his dark,
overcompensating
depressing
essentially.
past.
And it's hard to build that, but which is one of the reasons why I like Ben Affleck's Batman, and a lot of people don't, was because you know what, he had that pretty boy billionaire kind of feel to
Yeah,
him, and I like that about that, because I think that is where Bruce Wayne is. He plays the role of like this pretty boy billionaire type, young, entrepreneur kind of,
Yeah, and I
you
wonder
know.
how Robert Pattinson's going to do because based on like the limited like stills and stuff that we see from the trailer, he just looks very My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, I know. That whole movie looks, and I know Batman is very gothic by nature, but that whole movie looks
It looks
particularly like,
good. It's just I don't know how the character of Bruce Wayne's going to be.
yeah, I get more. He seems more like a Batman Beyond. Remember that character from Batman Beyond?
Yeah,
I kind of get those vibes from him a little bit. But what I can say about Patterson is that as an actor, he's really kind of surpassed his reputation as like a glittery
he's a
vampire,
great actor.
a sparkly vampire or whatever he was, right? Because
It's hard to dig yourself out of that hole when you get
yeah, it is.
typecasted like
Amen.
that.
Amen. I agree with that 100%. And he's done a good job just being very selective with the films that he shows. He shows very serious dramatic films after that, a lot of independent work, like these independent films that were like very heavy on
Yeah,
the dramatic side. And he kind of like throughout, like, yeah, he kind of like dug his soul. Yeah, it's kind of like how you look at Mark Wahlberg and, he kind of like, you don't think of the Funky Bunch anymore when you mention
yeah.
Mark, you mentioned Mark Wahlberg. But that is a hell of a hole to try to figure out. You know what I mean? You get typecast and stuff. So if you look at the other guy, Jacob from I'm sorry, did I know this? But if you look at Jacob from Twilight, he couldn't dig himself out of that hole. He's never really done
Yeah,
anything outside of that.
unfortunate.
Yeah, I like Andrew better. No hate to Tom or anything like that. And I get that. Like I said, I love Andrew's swag. Like, I think even though I do think that Tom Holland is a better blend of both Peter and Spider Man, I still prefer Tom Holland and Spider Man. Like in the suit, I love Tom Holland. I mean, I'm sorry, Andrew Garfield. I love Andrew Garfield in the suit. Like he is Spider Man, bro. He looks so cool. He has the swag. Ben Affleck did a good Batman, not a great Bruce Wayne though. I disagree. I think I actually disagree a little bit.
I'll say he was a better Bruce Wayne than Batman. That's
I
my
know
hot
I agree
take.
with that a little bit too, man. I agree with that a little bit too. I think he was a little bit better of a Bruce Wayne. He kind of gave that,
Especially
like
the
I said.
Batman versus Superman, actually. Like Batman versus Superman, where he's like just at the party and he's like playing it up.
Yeah,
That's
right,
Bruce Wayne.
right. Yeah, and he seems so he like where Michael Keaton gets a lot of praise, but he almost seemed too antisocial as Bruce Wayne. Like he
Yeah.
was always in a dark room looking up at the moon and shit. And I was always a little
Yeah.
like Bruce Wayne. You're right. When he was at the party and he was mingling Ben Affleck and he was kind of like shooting his shots and stuff. It's like he was
And then
doing. He
he'd
was
immediately
old.
go around and go
Yeah,
be doing espionage and like that.
yeah. I
That,
totally agree
that's good
with you on that
acting.
one. I totally agree with you on that one. I think Bruce Wayne is a little, but his Batman was pretty cool as well too. I think the costume
Yeah, I like
design
his
and everything was
Batman.
cool. Everything's cool. But let's see who else. George, how about George Clooney? Is that everyone's favorite? Or,
Oh yeah,
or how about
Arnold
Val Kilmer?
Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
Did you watch
Just
those
just
movies? Because
just
I know
the puns in that movie, god awful,
you
the
watched that
worst.
movie. Because I know you were
I've
younger.
seen
You were younger, so I don't know why you
my
voluntarily
dad
forced
showed me
yourself.
all of the movies. He was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, you're gonna love Batman with Michael Keaton, and you're gonna love Batman Returns. That's like even better." And then it's like, "All right, now we gotta watch Batman Forever," and then it ruined it for me.
As in, it will forever be burned in your
With the
memory.
nipples being on the freaking armor. Like
That was
what is
so
with that?
weird. That was so weird. But you know the story about that? They were going to do another Tim Burton Batman, and then they kind of like the studio got upset at. So here's the thing: the studio got upset at Tim Burton, or they didn't like the fact that on Batman Return it was like very gory. In particular, that scene with the penguin at the end where he was bleeding black blood.
Yeah,
You remember that scene? That completely
yeah,
threw the studio off because obviously they were
really.
really interested in selling toys and selling like Happy Meals and shit. So that really kind of threw them off. And then they replaced with Tim Burton, which, bro, people do not give Tim Burton the respect that he deserves as far as like changing not just Batman and our sort of like the representation that we got of Batman and making him that dark kind of because really
He made goth cool again.
yeah, he made Batman cool between him and Frank Miller, the comic book writer. Thanks for the flowers, I appreciate that. Frank Miller, who like re-envisioned Batman in the comic books, and Tim Burton really killed it on that on the original Batman movie. And Batman Returns is so underrated, man. Everyone talks about the 1989 Batman with Jack Nicholson. I much
Yeah.
prefer the one with Danny DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer. That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite Batman movies, and it gets no love. It gets no praise, really.
Where
Uh,
where does it stack up with The Dark Knight though?
Oh no, let me read this real quick.
That one.
That's a good question. I feel like he didn't act any different from Bruce to Batman. Yeah, that is true. That Brett Ben Affleck. I don't disagree with that, but I think he was a good Bruce, and because he didn't make any difference. It kind of like knocked him down from the Batman. I was in love with Poison Ivy since those movies. Oh yeah. I never thought Uma Thurman was hot until I was like
The
prepubescent
people that are
watching Batman Forever. You know?
the people that are into Poison Ivy are into toxic women. And yes, if you feel called out, that's exactly what I'm doing right now.
Gus, the perfect fourth is calling you out, bro. And a quite literally toxic woman. That is hilarious. All right. But let me say this. So, Dark Knight. So, here's the thing. I'm a bit biased because honestly, Dark Knight to me is one of my favorite movies of all time outside of even just the comic book genre. Like, to me, I love
Sure.
Shawshank Redemption is my number one favorite movie. And by that I mean I
That's a
can
good one.
watch it anytime. Like sometimes and that's a movie like I said that's one of the things that I really enjoy is dialogue and like a well written movie.
Yeah.
You get hard pressed to find a better written movie than Shawshank Redemption. And the Dark Knight key, let me tell you, bro, there are times where it would just be on TNT, right? The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I'm just watching it on regular television. I'm switching through channels, and I'll watch it for like 10 seconds, and I'll immediately get so enthralled into the movie. Like the dialogue would just grab me, you know? No matter how many times I've seen it
Yeah.
or anything like that. So, and oh my God, and you're talking about Heath Ledger, who just did a performance of a lifetime in like I
And
appreciate
he's
his
not
acting
known
in
for
that so
doing
much.
that kind of role.
No, and that's the
He's
thing about it.
pretty bad boy.
He's such a great character actor that I can show you three different movies, and to like the uninitiated, you will not know that it's the same character. You know, if you see him, for
Yeah.
example, in Lord of Dogtown, if you see him on like 10 Things I Hate About You, and if you see him on freaking The Dark Knight, you would never think that it's the same actor playing these characters. You know, and so
Yeah.
I just think like that as good as Joaquin Phoenix did, that Joker, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he died or anything like that. That portrayal of the Joker is just going to go down in cinematic history as one of the best performances of all time. You know, I really do believe that. That's how highly I put that Joker performance up there. Uh, so the Dark Knight to me is it's always I can't think of a better comic movie than the Dark Knight ever. Like as much as I love Infinity War, as much as I love all that, like the Dark Knight to me just hit on all cylinders. Tatted up girls, tatted up girls with daddy issues can just have my number. My heart. Yeah, you're into Poison Ivy, I see.
Dang.
Yeah, but
So for all there's, I guess I have like almost 150 people in on my side now. Everyone's like, this is different from the usual content. So Manny and I used to go on live like this like all the time, like earlier last year, and we would talk like this. So maybe we'll have to do it more. It seems like everyone's like really vibing with
yeah,
it. So
yeah. In an alternate universe, we were gonna have like a live cast at one point where we were gonna do this
that's
regularly. So
right.
yeah, no man, I certainly
I
enjoy talking
mean,
about all things geek with you, man. It's fun,
it's
man.
still it can still be on the table.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Like the last time we talked about it, when all that stuff was going on, I'm like, hey, whenever you're ready,
Yeah,
I'm not going anywhere.
yeah,
So
no, it's certainly fun, man. We can definitely talk about it, man. It's certainly I always enjoy talking to you, man. So it's good. So I mean, if I were to rank my Batman movies, it would be The Dark Knight number one, and probably Batman Returns with Catwoman, and that'll
yeah,
probably be my number two. And then I'll probably put number three will probably be The Dark Knight Rises, I guess by default. You know,
yeah.
so. Those are probably my part three. But man, if you guys have not seen Batman Return, right, go watch that movie. I mean, that movie is like it's so underrated. Danny DeVito killed it as the Penguin, just killed it, man. You know, Michelle Pfeiffer
Oh
killed it.
yeah.
That was a good movie. How would you rank your Batman movies?
I would much similar. Like I'd say Dark Knight's number one, and then Batman Returns would be second, and then I'd probably put the 1989 Batman third.
That's fair.
I'd put
That's
that
fair.
one above
Dark Knight
Rises.
Rises.
Batman Begins. I feel like it's a hot take, but I didn't like Batman Begins all too much.
No, I didn't either. That's not a hot take. I think that's 100% fair. I didn't like it all that much neither. I kind of like where it was
It almost
going.
felt like it wasn't on like the same wavelength as the other two Dark Knight
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
movies.
It's like if you're gonna watch the trilogy, if you want to go back and watch the trilogy, that'll be the hardest movie to get through. You know what I mean? That first one, you know. I agree with that, but I
It's
did
kind of
like
like
Dark
how
Knight
you have
Rises.
the you've got the last Jedi, you've got Force Awakens, and then you have the Rise of Skywalker. It's the same trilogy, but that last movie just doesn't feel connected to the other two
Yeah,
nearly as much.
no, no. You're absolutely right. They need to get Mark Hamill to play the old Joker in a movie. I don't know if
Yes,
he can play
honestly,
him
I'll
in live
say
action. He can't play him in
y'all
live
can
action.
love y'all can love Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger, but Mark Hamill's my favorite Joker.
Yeah, no, no, no. But I mean, you come on, he can't play him in live action.
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to do live action because he just doesn't have the look.
Yeah, he doesn't have the look
But the
to it. But I
voice,
mean,
the
if you
voice is
grew up,
so good.
yeah, if you grew up in the '90s in particular on Batman, like he was the voice of the Joker. Like he was the Joker. You know, that laugh, everything about him was like, you know. And
Yeah,
that's another thing as well. I think that animated series really like helped Batman become what he is today as well. So how about did you see the new Spider-Man? I take it you've seen it, right?
I did. Yes,
Yeah. What were your thoughts on that? Did you like it?
I loved it.
Yeah,
I
I thought it was
absolutely loved it.
I thought it was so
But
fantastic.
do you know anyone that doesn't like it? That's the real question.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. And I've seen
It sounded sarcastic, but like a legitimate question. I've never met someone that was like, "Oh yeah, that's not it. That's not it for me.
yeah. Well, Gus is saying in
Not my
my
cup of
chat.
tea."
Gus in my chat is saying that it's awful, but I'm pretty sure he's just being sarcastic. Yeah, but no, man. I just happened to see. I just showed my daughter before that, coincidentally, the first two Spider-Mans with the Sam Raimi ones, and so it was
Yeah,
like it was just fresh in my mind when I saw that. So I really did enjoy it. I thought it was fantastic. And what's interesting too is he's going to be the director behind that movie, who's been killing it with all of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. He's going to be doing the Fantastic Four
Multiverse of
reboot.
Madness. Well, also Multiverse of Madness.
No,
That's Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi's doing Multiverse of Madness. Believe it or
Yeah,
not.
that's true. That's who you're talking about, right?
No. I'm talking about the guy who did this Spider-Man.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about Sam Raimi. It's
No,
like, yeah,
no.
do Multiverse of Madness. It's gonna be great.
Yeah,
But
but Sam
yeah,
Raimi, I'm a little bit iffy on because it's like I don't like, one of his like imprints in films is that he's very campy, you know, and that can go for
yeah,
or against movies. Like some of the biggest gripes that people had with the original Spider-Man movie, his original trilogy, was that it got progressively campier, and the third one it's just like meme city, right? Like it's just like everyone makes memes of like how campy
yeah.
that was. So it's like I do like him.
True.
I love the Evil Dead movies. I'm a fan of his as a director, but he can get ultra campy sometimes. So and and like I said, I'm
That's
someone
fair.
who really values like good dialogue and a well written movie. So I'm a little bit iffy about him. I think people are just like think it's a shoe in like the multiverse movie, but I'm like a little let's see where this goes a little bit, and and
Sure.
so I'm a little bit iffy about that, but I do like what that new director is doing with I forgot what his name is. The guy who's been doing all the new Tom Holland Spider-Mans, who did this most recent one. Uh, he's going to be
I can't
doing
remember.
I can't remember his name either, but he's going to be doing the Fantastic Four movies coming up, which I think is pretty interesting
Please
because
give us a good Fantastic Four movie.
I know, which because it kind of gets to the point. Okay, we're going on Phase 5 now, right, of MCU, and it's just like
Yeah.
what good? How many good characters are left, right? So we got rid of Iron Man. I don't think we're doing Captain America anymore. I think Thor is going to be transitioned over to Natalie Portman. right? I think we're gonna have like a female Thor now, from what I hear. So there are some good characters like Fantastic Four that is still out there. So it'd be interesting to see how he does it, man. I hope because they don't have a good
A lot of
reputation.
them are just being introduced through shows. Like that's kind of the route they're going. Is just doing shows
You think so? Yeah. Well,
for
like
everything.
Hawkeye and who else though? Oh, like
I mean,
Moonlight.
maybe. I mean, they're gonna do maybe like what are they called, the next Avengers or the Young Avengers, where it's like Kate Bishop and you have Iron Lad and all these people that you haven't introduced yet. But
Yeah.
if Kate Bishop's gonna be in, then they're probably gonna introduce the others, and they put like Miles Morales in there,
Oh, that
something
would
like
be
that.
sick. Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Because like,
think doesn't Spider Man run the Young Avengers or the next Avengers? That's
oh, I'm
like
not
his
sure.
thing that he's in charge of, right?
Hold on, Alexa, turn the lights purple.
Because like that was oh my god.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It did. Mine set up too, so mine are also purple.
Oh yeah. Do you have an Alexa?
You made mine turn purple right now.
Oh.
Yeah, mine set do that, and I got the colored bulbs recently.
That's funny.
So
Yeah,
it
I got
definitely
the color
triggered
bulbs
mine.
too. Yeah, I got it like all over my house. That's funny. I'm controlling your Alexa. That's funny. That is the annoying thing about having an Alexa. Like if an ad, if like an Echo ad comes on TV, she like turns on and shit. You know. Yeah. So
They're just they're proving that the product works.
yeah, yeah, exactly. No, but it's annoying sometimes. Like you're trying to. No,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's interesting because it's just so there's still a lot of good MCU Marvel obviously characters that we can still get into, and they're even getting into some of the more like less known characters like Moon Knight, which I always
Oh,
kind
I
of
love
like.
Moon Knight.
Yeah, I always had an affinity towards him
I'm
because my
waiting
back.
for Deadpool 3. Better have Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight in there.
Yeah. Oh man. Wait. Are they gonna do a third season of
Deadpool
Deadpool?
3. Well, they confirmed that Deadpool 3 is happening and that it's going to be an MCU film and it's going to still have its R rating.
Oh, so it's not gonna be on Netflix. It's gonna be actual film.
It's going to be a film.
Great.
Like,
That's
but it's going to
fantastic.
be because the other two were done through like Fox, I think technically, and they weren't considered part of the MCU. But this was going to actually be brought into the MCU because they're adding Daredevil. I really hope that they don't. If they like, if and when they decide to make new content for Daredevil, that they take away the grit that came with the original Netflix show, because
Right.
that's considered
Absolutely.
canon and everything. But
And,
I
and,
mean, I hope they don't do the Disney treatment where they take away all of that because it's too much.
Yeah. And it also, it wasn't excessively R rated. It just went there when it
No,
needed to go there, And it was good.
yeah, it
It
wasn't
was good,
like gross or anything, but like it just made it felt more real because that's
especially
kind
you're
of what
talking.
would happen.
Yeah, especially you're talking about Daredevil, which is like Hell's Kitchen. It's like by nature very gritty. Again, it was Frank Miller who did most of his work, so it was a very gritty sort of character by nature, though. And I'm glad
Oh
that
yeah,
they're not getting rid of him because I'm going to be honest with you. He was a good enough Rob Murdoch. I don't think he was like the best thing since sliced bread, but
Tony Fox.
yeah. But I thought he was great. Don't get me wrong. I just like I
Yeah,
would have like it's okay. We can keep him. We can keep him. Who I'm really interested that they keep is the guy John Berthron or whatever his name is who played the Punisher. Like Jesus, there
yeah.
can be no other Punisher. That guy was so perfect for the Punisher, man. It would
And then we're
yo
gonna get Team Red, where we have Spider-Man, Deadpool, because they're gonna get all introduced together. So maybe Spider-Man will. He has nobody. He'll meet Deadpool and Daredevil, and then maybe by proxy, the Punisher will get introduced
yeah.
because
I
like
mean,
that was a whole thing in the comics where they all work together.
yeah. He has to come back. I mean, I think he added so much emotion to that Punisher character, bro. I remember watching when he was introduced in Daredevil season 2. I
Yeah,
literally cried at that. Like it sounds weird, but I literally cried in that scene where he was like at the gravestone, like at the tombstone, and he was kind of like revisiting the whole thing that happened with his daughter. And he was
yeah,
crying, and I was crying, and it might be one of those things that maybe because I have a daughter, and you kind of just realize how much you
yeah.
actually love them, and for them to be taken away. But I think he just like sold that so well, and he's a really good actor, man. He's been in a lot of stuff, so. And from what I heard, they showed Wilson Fisk in Hawkeye, which I didn't watch any of Hawkeye yet, but
Hawkeye,
I was
I will
excited about
say,
that.
I just finished Hawkeye. I didn't watch it episode by episode. I watched it all. Well, I didn't watch it in one sitting, but they were already released. I think out of all the Marvel shows, it is by far the best one.
Really?
I think it's really, really well done. It's a different tone because like Clint is dealing with getting over the death of Natasha, because they don't explore that, because Endgame happens and she dies, and then they kind of just there's nothing for him after that point. So they
Yeah,
like
yeah.
explore that, and like he's becoming like the comic accurate one where he's dealing with hearing loss, and they kind of like show him exploring that. So like he's dealing with PTSD, hearing loss. It's like it's centered around Christmas, and his family, like they had like this whole thing like set up where they're going to do stuff together, and because the premise is all around a crime syndicate basically having a vendetta against Ronan, which was him, and they're like hunting him, so he
Oh,
can't be with
really?
his family until he deals with that, because they threatened his family. So he sends them away and tries to like keep his kids like separated from everything, but like
Oh,
his wife
wow.
knows that he was the Ronin, because he like told her like, well, you guys all disappeared, and we all dealt with the blip in our own way. It was like one of the lines he said, and then Kate Bishop gets like, there's like this whole like interweaving web, and just really well done. So like he doesn't want a partner because he doesn't want to see her get hurt, because it reminds him too much of Natasha, and
Oh,
then
wow,
eventually
that's
they like
interesting.
form
No,
form a
so
form
so
a,
so,
a, a team.
so it
So it's
actually
like
get.
it's really good, and then you find out at the end that Wilson Fisk is the big crime boss that everyone's too scared to talk about, and then he shows up, and there's a
And
whole fight scene.
it's the same actor, right?
It is
Oh,
the
man.
same Kingpin.
Oh, man, that's
It is
so
the
sick
same
because.
Kingpin, but I'm not going to spoil anything about it. But at the very end of the very end of the series, there's a big question mark on the character of Wilson Fisk,
Really.
on where that's going to go, and
Oh, I
it's
gotta
definitely
check that
worth the
out. I guess
watch.
my
It's the same
favorite.
actor and everything. He's very much the same, and actually, I mean, he's not taking off people's heads with a car door, but he's violent
Oh, yeah.
still.
No, I love. I
Yeah,
mean, I love that actor. I forgot what his name is. I forgot what his
Vincent
name.
D'Onofrio or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love him as an actor.
Fantastic.
I think for years he's been kind of underrated a little bit. He's done a lot of stuff, and
Yeah,
I thought he really added a very sort of intellectual, kind of like introverted like feel to Wilson Fisk. You know what I mean? Because I like when Michael Clark Duncan did him. He had like the real physical, intimidating presence to him. But this guy was intimidating, but he was. I like yeah. I think you know what I mean when I say that. I think that it really
yeah,
added that sort of like a little more depth to his character than just making him like some ruthless crime boss. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And
That's why I compare Gotham and Daredevil, because yeah, it's about superheroes, and like it's still that kind of a show in a way, but it's so psychological, and you really get into the characters' heads and that sort of a thing. So it's easier to invest in that sort of a thing, where
right,
like
right.
I mean in the MCU films, it takes you all of these movies to kind of understand what's going on in Tony Stark's mind,
All
sort
right.
of a thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For
It
sure,
takes
for
like it
sure.
takes way too long to invest in those kind of characters. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
surface level.
Yeah. No, no, I absolutely 100% agree with this. So I'll definitely give Hawkeye a shot. I mean, I've been wanting to, but I kind of fell off with some of the MCU shows. My favorite show so far, and I have not seen Hawkeye, was, believe it or not, The Winter Soldier and Bucky and the Winter Soldier or whatever. I
Yeah,
re
I think
I
it's
re
better than that one
Yeah, I like the
by
action on
by
that
far.
one.
It's not bad, but
Yeah. When it
I
came
think it's
to
definitely better. It's a
Wanda
different
Vision,
tone.
I was not a huge fan of WandaVision. I liked it's kind of like how we were saying with the Bad Batch. It started off good.
WandaVision was my least favorite Marvel show by
Yeah,
far, and
I
everyone thinks like I'm
agree.
crazy for saying that.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, no,
Everyone
no.
hated Loki. I loved Loki.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I didn't finish Loki though, man. Unfortunately, I need to finish that. But I was enjoying the crap
Oh, the
out of
last
it.
episode's insane. You have to, because then all the new Marvel stuff won't make any sense, because it's very much like the multiverse
Yeah,
and
yeah, I need to
how
get back.
that comes to
Yeah,
be.
I want to finish Loki and then I want to hop over to Hawkeye. But I just kind of like I said, I go through my spurts where like I'm watching TV nonstop, and then I'll take like a month or two where like I'm not watching any TV. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So that's kind of like where I'm at right now with everything.
Yeah.
But I do want to. Yeah, WandaVision. I felt like WandaVision could have been done in like like 4 episodes. I think it kind of went on for too long, and it felt like there was just a
Yeah,
lot of filler, you know, which is which is something that I get extremely tired with Star Wars too, man. Like, I like Dave Filoni. Like, he clearly has a formula where it's just like a lot of fillers. You know what I mean? And I think it makes
yeah,
sense. It makes sense if you're coming from the animated universe. You see that a lot in animated TV shows. You see a lot of fillers. But when it comes to live action shows, I think as an audience, have kind of grown accustomed to canonical episodes. If you look at Breaking
yeah,
Bad, if you look at Game of Thrones, there's very few fillers. Everything's sort of picking up where it left off at. So it's kind of like he tries to squeeze that animated series format into live action, and he just kind of like
yeah.
makes me want to roll my eyes a little bit. Like, how many episodes of The Mandalorian did they have to stop and find fuel or something? You know what I mean? You're like, fuck.
There's that one TikTok video where it's like, oh no, we're out of blue milk. We need to go to this new planet and do this
Border.
job for this random guy, and we're gonna have
Yeah,
to make some very difficult decision. But at the end of the day, it's all about the kid,
yeah, we gotta
and
like barter. Yeah,
doing it for the kid. And
yeah,
we got the fuel, but now the Razor Crest is falling apart again. It looks like we're gonna have
yeah.
to go to a new planet, and that's like the whole show.
Yeah, like I know season two, everyone was waiting. I think everyone was tuning in each week just to see when Ahsoka was going to come on, because it's like we had that one episode like it's Ahsoka.
Yeah,
It's
they
like,
were saying that she was coming on.
is it this episode? Is it this episode? And then it's like, no, we had to stop and like fight a giant spider. It's like, fuck, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
when there's a guy Bo-Katan, and everyone's like, "Yay!" They're introducing the old characters, which means
yeah.
that Ahsoka's down the road.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And by the way, that Ahsoka episode is still one of my all time favorite Star Wars content of all time. Was that episode?
The Ahsoka one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When she came in live action, that was such a great, 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 great episode.
They blended so many genres of
Yep, Western samurai.
movie. Yeah, samurai, western, just so many tropes into one thing.
Yeah, and it was done, and it was executed so well. And I mean, and everyone loves that character so much. So to see her in live action was just like was just such a ride. It was so awesome. So and I think that also kind of like I was saying, like it kind of like put a damper on the excitement that this Book of Boba Fett show could have had, because
Yeah.
it's like between the anticipation of Obi-Wan, everyone wants to see the Obi-Wan
Well,
show.
until they bring Boskin and Cad Bane and the
Yeah.
Mandalorian.
Ooh, ooh, it's
Oh,
Cat.
sorry, I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm not gonna spoil it.
No, I
Uh,
can't wait to see a live action Cad Bane, man. I've been.
so basically, what's going on? And they talk about the whole thing. The Pike Syndicate is trying to take over Tatooine, and he said absolutely not. So he has he's like the brains. Fennec is like the brains and the brawn. He needs more brawn, so he's going to reach out to
Oh, so
some
I
old
say
contacts.
he needs
So
some
he's
more
going to
muscle.
call. He's going to. And at the end, they play the opening whistle thing from the Mandalorian, and then it goes black. So he's going to call the Mandalorian
Has
and
has
maybe
anything been
Bosk and some of his old contacts.
has anything been confirmed as far as the live action Cad Bane? Or no?
No confirmation, but I mean, my prediction is either he's got to show up. I don't know. There's too much demand for that character, and this is where it would make sense. He's either I think he's going to be working for the Pikes, but they're
Oof,
going to hire him. So it's going to be Cad Bane versus Boba in the end. One of them walks
ooh.
away, kind
Oh
of
my
like how they're
god.
talking about in that unfinished Clone Wars, or he's going to work for Boba, but he kind of hates Boba Fett because the last time they had an encounter canonically was the train heist in the Clone Wars, and
Right, right.
Boba Fett betrayed Cad Bane, so
Yeah.
they don't exactly like each other.
Yeah, he's the one who put that bullet hole or that bullet dent
Yeah.
in Boba's headgear, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's not canon. That's the thing.
Oh, that's not
I
canon?
like to think of it as, but it was not released, so technically it's not official. So
Oh,
we still
oh.
technically do. I mean, the it's really stupid, but the official thing is that helmet is his father's, and he smacked his head getting onto the slave one when leaving Camino. and that's where the dent comes from. And
Why
it's
did you
really
tell me
lame.
that?
But
Why did you tell me that?
but watch it. You can see it. There's no dent, and then you see him leaving, and you see him clearly like they animated it because it's CGI. Smacks his head on like the top of the ramp, and then the next time you see him, you see a big old dent in his head.
That's so stupid. I hate that. Why did you tell me that? I was just living in a world
Now
where
you got to go back and
yeah,
or it's probably online. You can just look up Jango Fett smacking his head. It's literally like that one scene where the stormtroopers are running in A New Hope, and one of them hits their head on the top of the
yeah, that's so
on
funny.
the roof. It's exactly like that.
That's hilarious. I wonder if it was like kind of like a callback to that. It might have been. Yeah.
I mean, like in the book of Boba Fett, there's definitely a straight up reference to when they introduced Grievous in Revenge of the Sith. There's like a droid that's in Jabba's kitchen
Oh yeah.
that basically does the same moves and all of that, and it's very much this is
That's
obviously
so
them
funny.
referencing
I didn't notice that. No, I
himself.
mean I like that. I like that they do these little Easter eggs and stuff. But and I gotta get going. I gotta walk my dog pretty soon. But you know what's a character that I wish they would have really explored, and I think would have been perfect for a live action show would have been Grievous's origin story because he was like an admiral or
Yeah,
something like that, like a lieutenant or something in the army, and then he kind of just like ended up getting like blown up or some shit like that, and his body was
and
replaced with
then
parts.
yeah, and then Dooku was like, "Well, I saved your life, so now you're like my indentured servant," sort of a
Yeah.
situation. And he was totally manipulated,
Yeah, he kind of got the
not by
same Boba
choice.
Fett treatment as far as like, okay, this is a really cool. He was kind of in this sense the Boba Fett of the prequel trilogies, in that this is a
Yeah,
really cool character, but there's no like screen time. You know what I mean? And then
yeah. I
we
mean, we get a lot of him in the Clone Wars, but he's very much very similar, or he's exactly the same as what we see. He's like very intimidating, but then the second Obi-Wan or any other Jedi that's basically a big name shows up, he's a coward and runs.
yeah, he gets sliced up by butter, like butter. Yeah,
And that's ultimately that was his ultimate demise. Is he tried to escape Utapau, and Obi-Wan
yeah,
predicted his movements and
yeah.
was able to
Which,
stop him.
which even that fight, man, I think could have been done so much better. But I digress. You know.
Sure.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
all right, Key,
you
listen,
think
bro, it's a
with
pleasure.
the
I'm gonna hop off. I'm gonna go get some grub, and I'm gonna walk
okay,
my dog, I'm pretty sure he's like begging for me to use the bathroom. So, all right, brother. Listen,
heck
man,
yeah,
dude, it's
man.
always a pleasure, bro. We'll link up. We'll see if we can. Yeah, man. Maybe we'll talk about doing some kind of live stream, like we talked about before, man, and see if we can get something. This was really
Yeah,
a breath of fresh air. It was refreshing to speak to you, man.
absolutely, man. Anytime. I mean, you know where to find me. I'm generally on quite
Yep.
often.
You're the
So,
man. You
especially these days, because my schedule for school is later in the day traditionally.
Yeah, I
So,
was a little surprised to see
um,
you on early. Well, I mean,
yeah, I've
early for
actually been
you.
doing earlier streams as opposed to later ones as of recent. Like, I will occasionally do the later one, just catch different people. But
Yeah, because for the
yeah,
most part,
it's
every time
working.
I traditionally when I see you on, it's like past midnight for me, and it's just like probably like nine
Yeah,
o'clock for you and stuff, you know. So, all right,
yeah,
brother, man, glad you're doing well, man. We'll catch up again soon, man.
dude, absolutely. Take care.
You too, brother. Bye.